Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a really dramatic story from colonial history. It all starts with a shocking accusation of witchcraft, and trust me, the echoes of this one are still felt today.
So let's set the scene. The year is 1606. We're in San Gabriel, New Mexico, which at the time is this tiny, fledgling Spanish colony way out on the northern frontier. And you have to imagine, this place is a cultural powder keg. You have completely different worlds crashing into each other, and the results are often confusing and violent.
On December 29, 1606, an indigenous woman is dragged before the Inquisition, and these are the exact charges leveled against her. Now, these weren't just idle accusations. In this world, charges like Mexican witchcraft and using sacred plants like peyote, that carried the full weight of heresy. That was seen as demonic.
So what's really going on here? This one accusation just cracks open this incredible historical mystery. Were these women really practicing some kind of dark magic? Or was something else going on entirely? Let's peel back the layers and see what we can find.
Okay, first things first. We need to meet the woman at the very center of this storm. The historical records actually give her a name, which is huge. It takes her from just a stereotype to a real person, Maria de Zamora.
Now this table right here, it completely shatters the image of some lonely outcast practicing magic in the shadows. Look at this. Maria, an India Mexica, was married to a Spaniard, a guy named Bartolome de Montoya, and their kids, they were officially mestizos, meaning they were of mixed heritage. So Maria wasn't on the fringes of society, she was literally at the heart of a brand new one being formed.
So when you actually look at the details, that label witch just starts to fall away. What you see is a Mexico woman, born in the old Aztec capital, a wife, a colonist who made that brutal journey north, and a mother to 5 kids. And here's the kicker. Despite how serious those accusations were, the charges were eventually dropped. She got to live out her life.
Okay, so that raises a huge question, right? If she's this respected wife and mother at the center of the community, why in the world was she accused of witchcraft to begin with? Well, the answer isn't really about evil spells. It's about a massive clash between two totally different ways of seeing the world.
And this comparison just lays it all out perfectly. On one side, you have the Spanish Catholic perspective. They see anything they don't understand through the lens of heresy and demonic influence. It's all about sorcery and the devil. But on the other side, you have the indigenous worldview, where things like sacred plants and rituals were part of a deep tradition of healing and spirituality.
A practice like curanderismo is a perfect example. For Native communities, this was medicine. This was about healing the body and the spirit, using ancient knowledge of herbs and rituals. But to a Spanish priest, a woman using herbs and chants, well, that looked an awful lot like the witchcraft they were so terrified of back in Europe.
And that's the absolute key here. This wasn't really a battle between good and evil. It was just a tragic, massive misunderstanding. Every single Native spiritual practice, every ritual, every healing tradition was being filtered through this intense lens of Spanish Catholic fear, and it was all being labeled demonic.
This tragic misunderstanding wasn't just a one-off thing. Maria's case was, sadly, just the beginning. It kicked off a really disturbing pattern of accusations that would stretch on for generations.
So let's fast forward about 2 decades, and we meet another woman, Beatriz de Los Angeles. And just like Maria, she was a Mexican Indian woman living in this new colony. And just like Maria, she found herself accused of witchcraft.
Her story follows a chillingly similar script, but you start to see some telling details pop up. The accusations often came out of personal fights, arguments with lovers, jealousy. It seems witchcraft became a really convenient weapon for people to use, especially for men to use against women in romantic disputes. It was a way to shift blame by claiming you were bewitched.
And it didn't stop with Beatriz. This fear, this suspicion, it was passed down to the next generation. It ended up trapping her own daughter, Juana de la Cruz, in the very same web of accusations. And this is where the stories get, well, they get pretty bizarre. When Juana was being questioned about where she'd been one night, her confession, or what was written down as her confession, was that she had flown mounted on an egg to go spy on her lover. I mean, it's just this fantastical, unbelievable image. So, what do we even do with a story like that? I mean, flying on an egg? Well, the Spanish officials were busy writing it down as proof of sorcery. It probably points to something much deeper. You have these women who are stuck between their ancestral traditions and this rigid, hostile new system.
It's possible they were just using the only tools they had, folklore, their knowledge of plants, maybe even a reputation for being powerful, to try and navigate their world.
And that brings us to the final and I think most powerful part of this whole story. What happens next? How does history end up remembering these women who were so feared and condemned in their own lifetimes?
We started this whole story with one person, one Mexico woman, Maria de Zamora, standing accused of being a witch way back in 1606.
But here is the incredible twist of history. That same woman, Maria de Zamora, is the 12th great-grandmother to literally thousands of New Mexicans who are alive today. She wasn't erased by this. She wasn't forgotten. She became a founding mother. Her DNA is woven right into the fabric of the American Southwest.
So the very women who were once scapegoated as witches are now proudly claimed as founding mothers. The entire narrative just gets flipped on its head. The very thing the Spanish Inquisition saw as a mark of shame, that connection to indigenous identity in spiritual ways, is now celebrated as a badge of honor, a sign of resilient heritage and deep cultural roots.
And all of this leaves us with one final big thought. Maria's story really forces us to look again at witch trials throughout history all over the world. Maybe the real story of witchcraft isn't about flying on eggs or making deals with the devil. Maybe it's a story about power, about misunderstanding, and about the courageous women who were just caught at the dangerous crossroads of colliding cultures.